We can see it now.
Thank you.
Quale bambola è bianca? Quale bambola è nera? Quale delle due è bella?
Questa.
Qual è quella bella? Qual è quella brutta? E qual è quella buona? Quale è cattiva? Qual è buona?
Lei,
Perché è buona?
perché ha gli occhi celesti.
Quale è cattiva? Perché è cattiva?
Perché è tutto nero.
E qual è la bambola che ti somiglia di più? Quale bambola è nera?
Mi ha offeso. Tu. Perché mi hai chiamato nero?
Perché ti offendi?
Mi offendi perché altri bambini mi hanno offeso con cattiveria.
No, io non ho usato nessuna cattiveria.
Quello mi sta guardando storto.
All right. What are your thoughts there? And just as you're kind of gathering here, feel free to write down additional thoughts. Everyone, because of the sake of time, will not have the opportunity to share verbally, but we do want to hear from you. So feel free to use the chat, and then I'll try and facilitate the conversation as best I can in both ways. Have any of you seen anything like that before?
No.
Yes.
Some say yes. Some say no. Was that you, Hyacinth, that
Yes.
said you have not?
That was me, Katie.
That was hey, Katie. What was your impression from seeing it?
I was a little confused, I want to say, because the dolls, like, they didn't have any hair, or it was just two tones of skin that the kids were able to look at. So, you know, most of the kids were able to say that they look like the dark-skinned doll when they are actually a different tone than the dark-skinned doll. So I was kind of confused as to why it was just a black doll and a white doll.
Excellent observation. Thank you, Katie.
It's Lisa. I also saw confusion on their faces and apprehension about what to choose, the right decision to make when they were choosing, and an understanding that they had chosen the doll looking like them, no matter what skin tone it was, that was bad, and they chose it anyway. and the realization that they chose to call themselves bad. They said they look like that doll. So all of that kind of goes together, and it is split second decisions that the whole socialization and exposure process, what you are taught. These are children that have been in the world for 5 years. Someone taught them these things, or they were influenced by these things. And so those are my thoughts about what took place.
Thank you, Lisa. You know, we're going to get to know each other here over the next hour pretty well, including you all getting to know a little bit about me. I'm from Charleston, and I ended up playing football at the University of Alabama. I played against Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. My last game was against Tom Brady, and I'm saying that for a point. But just before I do that, I got to Indiana because I'm a lawyer. I went to Indiana University School of Law there in Indianapolis while I was working for the governor at the time. Several years ago, I was working for the governor and going to school at the same time. And then I started doing a ton of this work, like I said, over the last 20 years in Chicago and in varying places. I'm actually in Miami right now. And I'm saying all that because I've been through a lot of different experiences in a ton of different cultural contexts. You all can see this is a test that is similarly situated to some other psychological experiments, this one done in a foreign country. And as tough as I like to think I am with all the football and all that kind of stuff like that, I have seen this experiment over 100 times, this particular one over 100 times, and it puts a stake in my heart every single time. I'm not really a tough guy. When you see that kids can be manipulated.
I had the same reaction, Clary. It just made me really sad, especially as Lisa said, kind of the heavy weight that was on these tiny babies to identify themselves as bad. It makes me so sad.
This is Rodney speaking. I've been to many countries where you just identified as the person of that country. It seems that the United States really identifies the separation of color versus just being an American in a lot of different ways. So it is a sad situation.
You know, Rodney,
if you go to like South Africa, Brazilian, Venezuelan, there's all different colors of people, tones of their skin and things, and they're just identified as a Brazilian or an African or British or whatever. They don't really split the color line like they do here.
Thank you, Rodney. He brings up a very interesting perspective. The people of African descent, I'll just use this country, for example, is one of the ones I visited, that live in England, they're called English, whether you're Black or white. But in America, there's this hyphenated American, as if you're not fully American in certain contexts, right? You're Asian American, you're African American. You can't be fully American. And so it kind of puts a little bit of stigma. With that said, every country that I have visited, and I haven't visited every country on earth, but every country that has its own level of either classism or racism or colorism or dividing people on socioeconomic status. We know very well that there's certain countries that do not look at women as equal to men. And in America, at least in the workforce and many other places, women are not seen as equal to men. And so there's a lot of work to be done. Our narrative is going to be broad as best we can, but we're going to hone in on some of the popular things that we know of. Oftentimes we'll start with like a Black-white narrative and then we'll expand it into gender and so forth and so on. But I've seen this. You have as well. As a matter of fact, we will continue. So if you've got thoughts, let's keep them going. Again, you can participate in the chat. I'm going to pull up some definitions And then you all tell me, because it's very clear that love and hate can be taught, but love, as it has been stated by Nelson Mandela and Mahatma Gandhi and many others, is easier to the human heart to receive than hate. Tell me what you see, if you see anything, as I pull up this definition. It's just a general definition that I just Googled, and it is of the phrase, or the term I should say, Black. It's just of the term Black. Can you all see that? Tell me if you see anything there that may stand out to you. And you can go ahead and say it if you see anything.
Black smoke comes up to me.
Black smoke, very interesting. Anyone else see anything? I see
Absence of light.
the absence of light. Huh,
Dirty.
dirty. Huh. Okay, all right, well, maybe we need to just kind of expand the definition a little bit. Maybe we're not seeing the full picture. So I tell you what I'll do. I will pull up more of the definition. Let me stop sharing here. And let me attempt to share this. All right, here's more of that same definition. This is number 3 on Black. Tell me if you see anything here.
Evil or wicked? Yeah.
Interesting.
Tragic or disastrous.
Sad and unhappy.
Right.
Macabre.
Ghoulish, morbid, angry, annoyed, irate, vexed. If you were on the other side of the interview desk and they said, oh, we've got a Black guy that's coming in to interview, subconsciously, it's not just the kids. Subconsciously, we're thinking, oh, Black is miserable, unhappy, sad, wretched, brokenhearted, tragic, disastrous, calamitous, catastrophic. Okay. Well, let's just see what the definition of white looks like, because you know, sometimes it can be, you know, just a simple, hey, how else are you going to describe evil? You have to associate it with the color. Like in India, one of the things that we know is in certain Asian countries, you know, white is seen as you know, prosperous and dark, and ghoulish is seen as another, but courageous is orange and prosperous is green. And so, all right. But let's look at our definition, our English definition, and let me see what you see when you see the color white. Let me make sure I've got the right definition here. Okay, can you all see that? If so, what do you see?
Purity.
Fresh, no. Fruits, flowers. Okay, so here's what I did. Let's just stop sharing there. I said, all right, maybe I'm looking too much into this, and I actually just typed in what is the color of purity. That's all I did. I just wanted to know what is the color of purity, and I want you all to see what I found. So I will share that now. If you can see that, would someone read it for me? Can you all see that?
Color white.
Yes.
Go ahead.
In a wide range of cultures, the color white symbolizes purity and innocence, and white robes and garments are worn to convey spiritual and or sexual purity. It isn't surprising that white became associated with purity, even as the smallest drop of dye or a smudge of dirt destroys the color.
Smallest drop of dye or smudge of dirt destroys the purity. If you mix anything with white, just even the smallest, tiniest hint, it's no longer pure. All right, so we're having a happy time now. Tell you what we'll do. Let's play a little game. How about that? We will play a game. We will lighten the mood because we realize that our children in many contexts are being manipulated. And even if we are going to look up a simple definition, come on, right? So here's what I want to do. If you go to your chat, I am going to give you a title or a category, just one word. And then all I want you to do, this little exercise on perspectives is called 7 seconds or less. There is one way to do this correctly, and there are a ton of ways to do it incorrectly. The way that you do it correctly is I'm gonna list a name, a title / category, and all you have to do is give the first name that comes to your mind. There's no right or wrong answer to that. The first name that comes to your mind. Now, here's the caveat. If it is a common name, then please write the first and the last name, okay? But the first name that comes to your mind when I type out this category, and the first category is, you all should be in the chat, and this is something we all can participate in. The first category is lawyer. So you don't have to say anything. It's not an open book. Don't even think. Just first thing that comes to your mind. And hold on, let me just type that out for everybody to see right here. Go ahead and start typing in the first name that you think of when you hear the phrase lawyer or hear the term lawyer. First and last name, if it is a common name, but lawyer, all right? I think everyone has had an opportunity to participate. I'm gonna go to the second one here, all right? What is the first name you think of when you hear the term athlete? First thing you think of, first name. Okay. I'm gonna give everyone an opportunity to participate unless you're driving. If you're driving, you can sit this one out. Okay. All right. First name that you think of when you hear the term / title genius. All right, you all are doing fantastic. Make sure you're responding to the entire group. Okay. All right, and let's do one more. Now, this one cannot include Emmy or Brian or anyone associated with HVAF, okay? No one associated with HVAF, but what is the first name that you think of when you hear the term, or in this case, the acronym CEO? First name you think of. Okay. I think everybody's had an opportunity to participate, hopefully. Now, if you're still responding to the first term, which was lawyer, then don't worry about it. You can just go ahead and take a break. because we're going to go ahead and move forward, and then you can join us as we all review together, okay? All right, so get prepared to unmute. I'm going to go through these. Anybody need more time? You good? All right, everybody's good. All right, so the first phrase was lawyer. First term was lawyer. Let's see what we have. Andrea, Keller and Keller, Ken Nunn, Allie. Danny, who's Allie? You have to unmute for me, Danny.
That's Allison DeYoung. She goes by Allie.
Okay, Allison, that's someone that you know. Is that your personal attorney, Danny? You in trouble?
I wouldn't disclose that. No, that's HFAF's
Okay,
lawyer. Yeah.
perfect. And then is Allie, do you know her ethnicity?
I believe she's white.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we got Keller and Keller, Ken Nunn, Allie, Ken Nunn, Allison. I believe that's the same Allie, right? Hanky, Tara, who's Hanky?
This is a law firm that came to mind that I use. I usually refer my veterans to.
Sounds good. And is Hanky a particular person, or is that the name of the firm?
Name of the firm.
Name of the firm. Okay, great. And then we've got Crump, and then we've got the hammer, Brian. This is the second hammer today. Nicely done. And then we've got Thurgood Marshall, my favorite attorney. Thurgood Marshall, nice, Cole. And that's it. All right, do you all see any trends here? This is a smaller class, it's a smaller sample size, so it's a little bit difficult to see a trend, but I think that we can point out one or two things here. Do you see anything?
I think they all have good commercials.
Gotta have a commercial to get on this list, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking, advertising.
Yeah. All right, any other trends?
Most are white men.
Most are white men. I think I see two African-American men. One of them is dead. He's been dead for actually, yeah, one of them dead, has been dead for 50 years, 60 years. And I don't see any other ethnicities represented. So we have one dead African-American. We got Benjamin Crump, I presume that's who that is. And everyone else is a white man besides Allie, who's holding strong there. Where are the females? Where are the Asian Americans? Where are the Mexicanos, the Latinx, the Hispanics? We don't know any? I'm sure, of course we do. Of course we do. 100% we know Asian American attorneys, right? We know more female attorneys. There are a ton of females in this class. We know them. But our first thought was not that. If this was a larger class, the studies and statistics suggest that it would pan out the same. A lot of white men, Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Athlete. We'll put Keller and Keller up with the lawyers, I presume, Katie. Athlete, Michael Jordan, Emmy. Michael Jordan, Ben, Magic, my favorite basketball player. Nicely done, Roxanne. Darius Leonard. Who's Darius Leonard, Andrea?
A linebacker for the Colts.
Oh, really? Okay. Nicely done. I thought I asked you all not to mention any of the Colts.
Oh, did you? Sorry.
I'm playing around. Okay, we got
It's my favorite athlete.
It'd be hard for Andrea.
Yeah. We got Kobe, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and there's Peyton Manning, Magic Johnson, Ray Rice, Katie. Okay. All right. Do you notice anything there? Any trends?
They're all men.
They're all men.
Predominantly African-American men.
Predominantly African-American. So the lawyers are white, men, this is what this group thinks. Again, it's a small sample size, but I can share with you, having done this exercise in a number of contexts, including a couple of times this morning, it's the same thing. This is what's being fed to us. So we can't blame the kids. We can't blame the kids. And we can't really blame whoever's feeding us that Black people are dirty and white people are pure, because that's what the definition says. This is us. This is the educated elite. You all get paid for what you do. Someone gives you money for what you do. And our first thought, of course, if we had 2-3 more minutes, we would have come up with females. Forget the fact that the most celebrated, and I should say the most decorated Olympian of all time is a female, Simone Biles. We think of the guys because our brain is gender oriented towards they're an athlete, they're strong. And if they're strong, must be a man. Let's keep going. Genius. All right, Einstein, Edison, Einstein, Albert Einstein, Einstein, Sheldon Cooper, I believe from, what's the name of the television show?
Big Bang Theory.
Big Bang Theory, Einstein, Albert Einstein, Newton, Cole, who's Alan Turing? Help me, remind me.
Sure. He was an early computer scientist who decoded Nazi messages during World War II, and he was persecuted for being gay.
Thank you. To the best of your ability, do you know his ethnicity?
White. He's British.
Do we see, thank you, Cole, do we see any trends?
All males and all white.
All male, all white, and basically either fictional or dead. So if the leadership at HVAF said, hey, we're going to put together a subcommittee from this group, and we need to hire a genius. We need to hire the smartest person that you can think of. Your brain is trained to think dead white man. And so this class is about trying to reprogram that. But the way that it's reprogrammed is you got to do some internal work. And the reason why this is dangerous to think that, oh, if it's an entertainer, you know, I had to stop at the categories because we've got to move on. But, oh, entertainers and athletes, you know, they're people of color and they're males, but, you know, the geniuses and the lawyers, those are the white men. The reason why that's dangerous is because we're gonna miss out on valuable opportunities. And one day we're going to think that someone, because of the color of their skin, is a stereotype that they are not. And we've seen that play out, unfortunately, in very deadly and disastrous ways. Any thoughts, any questions, I should say, before we move forward? Any questions? All right,
Question.
so yes, go right ahead.
Just curious if you've ever done this, where there's a category where the class actually picks women as first thought, because it's always men.
I've had classes with all women and they still pick men, generally speaking. You know, you have some outliers where, you know, somebody will, you know, put someone unique or a family member. And I will say this, one of the ways to decode and deprogram is to get to know people that break the stereotype. If there's someone that is different than you, if they look different than you, if they have a different cultural expression or a different experience, buy them a cup of coffee. You're gonna learn something. At the end of the day, you're gonna probably get something that's more valuable than that cup of coffee. Give it a shot.
I had a thought I wanted to share. So I
Go right
think
ahead, Danny.
like some of us might have, like I knew probably what this exercise was about. And even still, like just in the pressure of the moment, like my mind, like I was like, I know what he's gonna do, but even still, like, you know, in a split second, you're gonna come up with the name that you can, you know, pull out of your head as fast as you can. So even with being mindful of it, it was still difficult. And I think to me that's probably the most poignant thing about this exercise for me.
Yeah, you know, it's pretty interesting. Thank you for sharing that, Danny. You know, a lot of people are like, well, I don't know any lawyers. All I see are the ones that are on television and so forth and so on. I introduced myself as a lawyer 7 minutes before this exercise. Now, I don't need anybody to pat me on the back and put my name down, but if you're looking for one, all right, let's continue. So we have this cultural dynamic that's shaping us, and it's shaping our kids, and it's shaping generations, and for the most part, it's shaping our workspaces. And so what do? I'm gonna go back now to I believe you all should be able to see this. As we talk through the impact of a lot of these things, what do you see when you see this? Or do you see anything?
A single mother.
Who was that?
Tara,
Hi, Tara. Which one do you suppose is the single mom?
the Black woman.
Huh. Okay, that's interesting. Why would you say that?
Just the fact that they have her by herself, but they have the white woman with the male.
Is there anything that is potentially wrong with that? We often would call that cultural appropriation. Back in the day, it was just called, you know, stereotyping. But do you see anything that could potentially do harm?
I wouldn't say could do harm, no.
How about if you're at the interview table and you need to hire someone and it's a pretty intense job, and it's not one where a person can really call off a lot because it doesn't have a lot of flexibility. And so you're going to interview two people, and one of them is a white mom and one of them is a Black mom. And so now you're sitting at that interview table and you're already trained. There's already something programmed in your mind to suggest, oh, I saw a box once and the white mom had a male next to her. So perhaps there's a happy family there. But there's this Black mom and the family is broken. So I'm not sure I want to take the chance because there are tens of thousands of dollars at stake, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, or maybe in our case, millions of dollars. There are millions of dollars at stake. And so I can't take a risk on somebody that's going to have to call off because, I mean, it's not my fault, but there are a lot of Black moms. Come on, guys. Do you think that is possibly a problem?
As you said before, it's a stereotype. I worked in the employment field, and there's ways of qualifying and disqualifying people. They feel like whether you're Black or white or whatever, if you're a single mom, period, there's going to be issues with daycare, sick kids, and so on and so forth. So they're stereotyped on that end. Now, if there's a single dad, the issue is not that big of a deal because they feel like the dad has, you know, a mother or grandmother readily available to take control of the kids, or some kind of way he's more superior with kids than women, which is in every aspect to me a fallacy. Because I don't see. I mean, I'm that's my own opinion. I'm sorry, but
oh, that's good.
Women deal with a lot.
Thank you for perspectives, and we're going to have some perhaps disagreeable opportunities, but thank you for your perspective there. Anybody?
I had an experience, Clary, when I graduated from Howard University and I went to work for Macy's in their management training program, and I was the only Black person in a class of 50, a training class of 50. And at the end of the tenure as a sales manager, when it was time to get promoted to an assistant buyer, leave the store that you were in as a department manager and get promoted and go there, I went to interview and everybody in squad was, and we called a squad, was interviewing. And when I sat down to interview with the interviewer, at the end of the interviewer, she said to me, "Oh, I'm not going to have any issues placing you because you're articulate." And I kind of looked at her like, I didn't say anything, but I kind of looked at her like, what do you mean? Like, I just didn't get it. So my buddy sales manager happened to be Jewish, and we had $100 million store that we ran the domestics department together with a staff of 50. So I said to her, "Jamie, when you were in your interview, did the lady say to you that you're articulate? Did she say anything about like," and she was like, "What? No, she's just prejudiced." And I was like, "What? You really think that's, what it is?" I just was really not wanting to believe it. And I mean, it's not the first experience that I had, being an African-American female, but it speaks to this and the unconscious bias, which people don't want to really acknowledge. She didn't know. She was just speaking her mind. She wasn't trying to be offensive. She actually thought she was complimentary because she was telling me she was going to place me. But in her mind, I was Black. So Black people are not articulate, but you are, amazingly, you are. So I will have the ability to pass you on because I see that you're articulate. And I don't think that people understand unconscious bias, and they think that everybody is purposefully biased. They don't know. They don't understand that what they're saying is bias and that they are evidencing their thoughts, but it comes from the place of what they have been exposed to. They're not targeting you. They're not saying, "Let me see how many Black people I cannot hire today." It is just something that happens because of the exposure they have had, and they don't really realize that they are doing this.
Absolutely, and thank you for sharing.
You're
And
welcome.
when I do the biased training, which is a subset of what we're doing here, so we're doing kind of an umbrella training here, and we're talking about some sticky stuff, but we can hone in just on bias. And when we do that, we realize that we all have them. We all have them. And it come out in very harmful ways. Who's speaking?
It's me, Carrie. There's also something else I noticed about this picture. It's not all too evident, but if you look at it, this one is saying organic baby carrier. The other one is just an ordinary baby carrier, 100% certified organic cotton. But because it's depicting a Black person, the other is depicting a white person, it is less expensive. It is cheaper.
Yeah, it's cheaper. The value of the box is different. Usually organic's more expensive.
Yes, but because it's depicting a Black person, it's to them, whoever is pricing, it's inferior to the other one.
Now we're going to move on. If you have other comments, go ahead and just share them or put them in the chat. But I've got another example for you. But I just want to say, maybe this is just a coincidence, right? Maybe the graphic designer for this particular company, and the reason why I'm pointing out this company is because we work for a company also. And we can make mistakes with the people that we're serving also if we're not careful. That's why we're going through this training. We're taking time away from what we normally would be doing so that we can get better, because we can do a lot of harm if we're not careful. This person is doing a lot of harm and they probably don't even realize it. Okay, let's continue. Tell me if you see anything here. And just to give some context, these are two separate incidences in the same city on the same day, and it's the same type of crime reported by the same media outlet.
This is easy to pick out.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go right ahead, Rodney.
I'm sorry. They focus more on their backgrounds. Wrestlers, University of Iowa wrestlers, they're all in suits. And then your next picture shows three guys that arrested for burglary. They don't say they're athletes. They don't say what their backgrounds are. They don't have on suits. It's a horrible depiction, you know. And
What's
so
the
it makes
problem
them
with
look
it?
more criminalized, the right picture, than it does the left picture. You know, like these guys from the wrestlers come from a better background or something. You know what's depicted. It's sad.
They use their school picture and then
Yes,
they use
They
the
use the
other
mug
one's
shots.
mugshot.
pictures.
Yeah, mug shot.
And these look like mug shots.
Yeah.
Yes.
They didn't use the mug shots of the Iowa wrestlers.
But they were
Correct.
arrested too.
And I think
Well,
it's
the
interesting that
University of-
for the
University
Iowa
of-
wrestlers,
sorry.
it says that their charges are pending, whereas it's more of like already the headline's already done. You know, they're already guilty for the 4 that were arrested.
You know, and anything else on this?
Well, something to add to that. If you think about what's going on now, with a lot of athletes getting into trouble and stuff, they do this a lot with athletes too. They try to show how they're depicted in the community, as far as, like, you know, how many people support an athlete, or even a movie star. And, you know, it's like the laws are different versus somebody like you and I that are not in the entertainment industry, or we're not athletes or something like that. It's a total difference in appearance. Kind of play on this as well.
Yeah, just.
But you got 3 white kids versus 4 black guys. So it's a difference in that as well too. So I could see that in the pictures.
Yeah. And to me, maybe I'm reading into this a little bit too much, but when I see University of Iowa, that to me denotes that these guys have a future, man. Don't mess these guys up. Okay, when they go to court, kids make mistakes. Let's give them a break. But these guys here on the right, their skin color is a little closer to mine. Those guys look a little tough even for me to give a break. Okay. Let me just pause for a second. The reason why this is important for us is because maybe one day you might sit in a jury and you've had the opportunity to kind of see the depiction of this in the media. Okay. And now you're going to have to decode all of the minutia to see the actual intent of whether or not these are people that really deserve the justice that will be wrought. Or perhaps one of these guys is somebody that is a coworker or a veteran. And the way that you look at them doesn't necessarily have to be the way that they have been portrayed. Okay, the next thing that we are going to show, I'm going to stop sharing this. It's going to be a video here. We're rounding the corner. It's going to be a video, and for some of us, this video is going to be similar to what we've seen before. Others, it's going to be provocative, and that's often what we're hoping to accomplish, something that will be deliberate to give us an opportunity to kind of talk through it. But let me just say, the same way that we have to be careful of the depiction of and the portrayal there of those folks, maybe they're all 7 innocent, who knows, is the same way that we have to be careful of the first video where it was kids. Because there was music that was played when they got to certain areas of the subject. And that kind of shaped our psyche a little bit. And I wonder if that played on our emotions. We just have to be aware. So you're going to see something now that you may or may not agree with. The second of these videos, so it's going to be 2 videos back to back. The second of these videos is one that we often do if this was a live class, but I'll have to show one of the illustrations that has been done before. And then on the other end, we'll talk a little bit about it. And while I am queuing this up, are there any questions? We good so far? All right. All right, well, here we go.
Line up, everybody line up. We're about to race. Everybody line up. Shoulder to shoulder. Take off your backpacks. Basketball, line up. We're about to race. Hey, we are racing for a $100 bill. The winner of this race will take this. It's a $100 bill. Before I say go, I'm gonna make a couple statements. If those statements apply to you, I want you to take 2 steps forward. If those statements don't apply to you, I want you to stay right where you're at. Take 2 steps forward if both of your parents are still married. Take 2 steps forward if you grew up with a father figure in the home. Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a private education. Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a free tutor growing up. Take 2 steps forward if you've never had to worry about your cell phone being shut off. Take 2 steps forward if you've never had to help mom or dad with the bills. Take 2 steps forward if it wasn't because of your athletic ability, you don't have to pay for college. Take 2 steps forward if you never wondered where your next meal was going to come from. I want you guys up here in the front just to turn around and look. Every statement I've made has nothing to do with anything any of you have done. Has nothing to do with decisions you've made. Everything I have said has nothing to do with what you've done. We all know these people up here have a better opportunity to win this $100. Does that mean these people back here can't race? No. We would be foolish to not realize we've been given more opportunity. We don't want to recognize that we've been given a head start. But the reality is we have. Now, there's no excuse. They still got to run their race. You still got to run your race. But whoever wins this $100, I think it'd be extremely foolish of you not to utilize that and learn more about somebody else's story. Because the reality is, if this was a fair race and everybody was back on that line, I guarantee you some of these black dudes would smoke all of you. And it's only because you have this big of a head start that you're possibly going to win this race called life. That is a picture of life, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing you've done has put you in the lead that you're in right now. When I say go, on your mark, get set, go.
Okay. Thoughts? Unmute for me when you're prepared to share. Let me know what you think. 2 different videos. And it's okay to disagree. If you think, hey man, that was awful, I don't agree with anything, this is the space to share.
Thought it was really profound at the end of the second one, how many people didn't even try to run the race because they knew they couldn't win.
Thank you, Emmy.
I thought there was also bias on the part of the instructor by saying that the black guys would smoke them. Athletics doesn't have an ethnicity or a race, so it doesn't matter if you, I know that what he was trying to do is make a certain sentiment, but you don't get to play both sides against the middle. So that wasn't appropriate because an athlete is an athlete. It doesn't matter what their skin color is.
Thank you for catching that. And I think he said some of these black guys. I think that's what he said.
Yes, that's what he said.
Yeah. So that reminds us that we're all on this journey together. I would be arrogant and foolish to think just because I get the opportunity to facilitate that I know more than anybody else. We come with different experiences. We are supposed to have open heads and open hearts because there's a ton to learn. It is a lifetime commitment. 90 minutes won't do it. It's easier to change the oil on a Lamborghini than it is to eradicate racism. Any other thoughts?
So I think this whole idea that when you disallow entire races of people for entire times, you saw that the wealth grew. And the fact is that the country was really built on the labor of slaves, and all of the Industrial Revolution, all of these things happened because of free slave labor. And so you didn't get an opportunity to have an education, own property, do anything while everybody else was, which is what this illustrates. But people don't want to admit that you have an advantage, that the wealth that may have grown in your family, the education that may have been in your family for generations was disallowed to other people. And this is uncomfortable for people to admit, which goes into this whole critical race theory, which is now being discussed when there is no critical race theory being taught in K through 12. It is a graduate level and law school level discussion. It is not currently being taught in the schools, but the idea is that I don't want to face this, so I'm just gonna say it happened a long time ago. You can live anywhere you want to live now, which we know that is not true. People are having to take their artifacts off the wall when they're African Americans so that their home values can be increased. And that is still going on. But there is, we've talked about this discomfort, the kids, and how uncomfortable they felt that when they realized that they're calling themselves bad. And to me, it's this discomfort that is causing all of this trouble. And the work needs to be done to try to help people realize how to process that. Then you might be able to do more work, because people don't want to be made to feel bad for something that they didn't do. No one, you come here the way you come here with the ethnicity, you don't choose it. It's just how you come here. And so the work is necessary, but I think the real work comes in helping people to process this feeling that they don't want to feel bad about this, something for which they're largely not responsible for, and they got to bear this heavy load on their backs every day in order to confront these things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Lisa. I think we have time for maybe one more person verbally, but by all means, you can continue to share in the chat if you desire, and then you have both Fran and my email if there's some things that you want to share with us personally that might be helpful. Anyone else want to say anything in addition to what's already been said?
I want to speak up about my experiences being on the street, dealing with homeless people. That's a relevant thing that I've seen as well. Now they see me get out of the van, it's clearly marked HVAC every day. And, you know, I have the opportunity to pass out a lot of different things, food, clothing, coats, hats, shoes, so on and so forth. And I actually had guys see me get out of the van and say, is this stuff stolen? And my partner on Thursdays, an older white gentleman, he's about the same age as me. They never ask him that question. It's always when I pass it out and we work together. He gets out of the van because I'm part of the outreach team around the city, professional blended street outreach team. So it's different organizations involved with us. But I've never seen them say to him, "Is your stuff stolen?" They've always said it to me, and he goes, "Man, did you hear that?" I said, "Dude, I'm used to it. I've been doing this 5 years now. I'm used to hearing that." But why does it have to be stolen just because I'm Black and I'm trying to help you out? And I've asked them that. Then they kind of go, "Oh man, I was just joking." Why even throw that out when I'm trying to help you?
Yeah,
that's crazy. It's uncomfortable, but you just have to brush it off and keep going. That's the mentality of some people out there.
I'm sorry you experienced that, particularly when you're trying to do good. And those of you that are trying to do good, keep on keeping on.
Clary, I want to say something in relation to working with people with criminal backgrounds, substance abuse issues, which we do all the time. And I worked for Work One for 8.5 years. So I didn't know as much about the maybe if you read my case, you might know about the substance abuse. It was more background. But this work that we're doing today is really important to us. It doesn't matter. We know that the veterans that we work with have substance abuse issues, mental health issues. And so how do we see the core person that they are, not necessarily the things that they have done? And you may not know it, but Katie was involved with an incident at our front door today. A veteran was self-attesting to suicide thoughts. And she and another one of the employment specialists, talked him through it and got help, got the authorities there to help him. And so that comes from a place where you can see the human being inside this person and maybe even some of the experiences that they've had in military, the things that they've seen and done, and the maybe sometimes the lack of services for them, when they leave the military, or lack of mental health resources and all the things that they might face. And so I think of this work too as helping me when I've got that difficult customer that doesn't want to call me back. When I talk to them, they tell me everything that's wrong and not everything that's right. How do we approach this work to see the value in each one of those people, despite the things? Because the truth of the matter is, all of us have some stuff in our closet that we probably don't want anybody to know. And you have to lay yourself bare in order to be able to get our services. But I see this as very valuable, helping to twist my thinking about how can I raise the veterans' spirit no matter what? How can I try to see through 6 felonies or whatever the heck it is to who that human being is, and what can I do for them that day just to be positive so that may last them until their next positive experience.
Thank you. Obviously, there's a lot of processing that needs to happen. I'm going to encourage you all in just a minute, and way to go, Katie. Gold star for you. And the folks that you served with today, this morning. So we've got to wrap up now so that you all can enjoy the rest of your day. Let me just conclude what we did. Let me put a bow on that. And I'm going to give you 2 juxtaposing thoughts there as we conclude. The first one is, regardless of how you feel about like the race videos, maybe you disagreed with all of it. I was hoping actually that we would get some folks that are like, oh man, that's garbage, man. I don't agree with any of that stuff, right? Because there are certain realities, right? And one of them, whether you want to look at Forbes studies or, there are others that have done this, when you're looking at the median household income, the statistics show verifiable that by the year 2050, the median household wealth for African Americans is anticipated to be 0. The median wealth for African Americans. Now, of course, they're going to be outliers, right? You're going to have some that are vastly in debt, and then you're going to have some. Oprah Winfrey is a billionaire. She's going to skew that, but that's the median. Whereas the median for, just using this as an example, Caucasian Americans, Asian Americans will still be near 6 figures. The median by 2050. 0 for African Americans, and just a few years after that, the same for Hispanic Latino. So that's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum, two juxtaposing thoughts, is that if you look at that little race narrative and you thought, oh man, I'm sick of being at the back all the time, or I don't feel like I'm in the front. They say that because of skin color, but come on, man. I might be white or Asian or male, but they don't have to beat up on us. My parents didn't give me anything. The reality is this: we're all at the front of the line. If you have a computer and you are able to hear me and you have participated in this Zoom, you're at the front, because by virtue of living in America, you're in the top 15% of the world's income earners. I've had an opportunity to do some of this work over in Uganda, which is the 3rd poorest nation on earth. Many people over there live off of less than $1 a day. Their hospitals are open air. That means they have no roof. The ground is dirt. You pay for your medical supplies as you get them. In other words, if you don't have the money, you don't get the syringe. If you don't have the money, you don't get the bandage, which means that the poor die first. And so if you're thinking, I'm tired of being at the back of the line, you're at the front of the line as far as the world is concerned, regardless of your skin color or your ethnicity, if you're on this Zoom, which means we all have work to do. We all have work to do. And with that said, here are some next steps. Then I'll turn it over to Emmy to conclude us. Some next steps. I'm sharing my screen one last time. I will also send this to Shanita and to Emmy and to the team that's going to be sharing some of these things. These are just resources. We did not have the time to really figure out where you may be individually. So we're going to send some broad resources that we think may cover you. If you're looking for tools such as apps or podcasts, maybe even websites that you can go to kind of further find out things, even controversial things like, Black Lives Matter, or how you can raise children that are dealing with racism, et cetera, some articles, even Netflix specials. I'm going to share these with you. And so I encourage you, regardless of where you are on the journey, to dig in, give it a shot. You can see some of them now, and if you want to jump in tonight, feel free to take a screenshot here, but we'll be sending this. The last thing is, we mentioned that we're going to send a survey here in the next week or so, and we are imploring you to take that survey and to share with us how we can do this better, please, because it matters. With that said, we'll turn it over to Emmy.
All right, Clary, thanks so much for spending the last 90 minutes with us. It was really impactful for me, and I hope for everyone. And I just want to commend everyone that's on the call for being vulnerable and sharing your own experiences and what's on your heart and your minds today. So thank you. This is just the beginning for HVAF. As Clary said, we want a healthy workplace. We want a place where our veterans feel safe, where our staff feel safe. So this is a journey that we're just starting. If you're on the diversity working group, well, if you're not, you should be. But if you are, the next task is figuring out what comes after this. How do we keep going? How do we keep growing? And how do we get better? So thanks everyone for a great day. And I hope you learned a lot.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.